That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
Hi, Matt Capper. It's Bianca and Lindsay.
Hi, Matt Capper.
And we're just doing my analysis presentation.
Yes.
So I am analyzing the album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by my favorite band in the world, The Beatles.
The Beatles! We love you.
With Paul McCartney, who I still want to marry in life someday. So Lindsay's going to ask me some questions,
Yes, I'll be doing
and
interviews.
I will attempt to answer them as well as I can.
Right. Well,
So.
Bianca, ready to get started?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band?
Sure.
Okay. Well, the first thing I wanted to ask you, and this is in relation to the actual album, what is the purpose of the focus... Sorry. What is the purpose and focus of this analysis?
Well, just like any analysis,
Right.
you are analyzing whatever it is the subject matter
And that would be?
Right, so the subject matter is obviously the album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. So in this analysis, I'm going to try to explain a little bit of why they did what they did and what influences they had afterwards and what kind of instrumentation and technology they used.
Perfect. This sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to dive in, are you?
Me too.
Okay, let's go. All right. So we're getting a little bit more specific now. So what are the musical elements and performance techniques used, and how do they contribute to the distinctive character of this album, e.g. pitch, melody, rhythm, and stage presence?
Right, okay. Well, I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
Sgt. Pepper... that's how we're going to shortcut answer it because it's a really
Right.
long
I was going to say, who's
album.
Sgt. Pepper? That's a bit...
Anyway, so Sgt. Pepper had a lot of psychedelic rock style to it.
Oh, wow.
They used a lot of synthesized influences.
Okay.
So, it was very different from what they had before. A lot of the influence came from, they went to India and they had these guru guys that kind of got involved in their life.
Okay.
So they definitely had more of like the psychedelic, little bit of drugs sort of a sound to it. So,
do you have any, I see here you might have some quote that talks about maybe the attitude the Beatles had towards this process. Do you want to?
Yep, absolutely. Paul McCartney summed it up by saying, we would say, try it, just try it for us. If it sounds crappy, okay, we'll lose it, but it might just sound good. We were always pushing ahead, louder, further, longer, more different.
That's Paul.
Good old Palsy.
Love him. Okay, moving on. Okay, so our next question is going to be about what technology was used on this album.
Okay, so they introduced the more modern effects, which were like the wah-wah pedal for the guitar.
Yes, seen a wah-wah.
Right,
One of the wah-wah.
Yes. They give discounts to Hillsong students now, in case anybody's wondering.
Okay.
So, but the biggest thing that they used was the ADT.
Oh, wow. What's that?
The automatic double tracking.
Oh.
A system that used tape recorders to create an instant and simultaneous doubling of a sound. Simultaneous. Same thing. So basically what the ADT was invented especially for this band, so for the Beatles, by the EMI engineer Ken Townsend.
Wow. Okay.
Mainly at the request of Lennon, who hated tracking sessions. Johnny.
Right.
And regularly expressed as a desire for a technical solution to the problem. So, so it was wasn't it? It was like it was rehearsed.
It was.
Or written, and I was reading.
Maybe it's anyway.
So it's just the doubling of tracking. So they used a lot of that
cool.
with a lot of the songs. They'd have like multiple layers of tracking.
No, I've heard a term flanging. Can you tell me about the term flanging?
I can't, but I do know that it did start with them.
Okay.
Yes, and this project. So yes.
Okay. Well, great. Flanging. Okay. So my next question is, what is the style and character of this Sgt. Pepper, this album? What are some particular musical elements that seem characteristic of this particular Beatles album?
I kind of touched on that before with the psychedelic feel.
Right, yeah.
So it was really, there were so many things within the album that people questioned, like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Was it LSD? Was it about LSD? Yeah. Were they on LSD when they created the song?
Lucy Sky
Diamonds, LSD. So there was all this controversy going on because it was kind of an outrageous weird album.
Yeah.
It just had a lot of, and the cover was weird, like the art of it was weird, but it was just different, and it kind of brought it into the new genre of
Wow.
music. So
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
Great. I'm loving this. Are you?
yes, I
Everyone
am
having fun?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you some questions about the artist, or in this case, the artists, I'm
Mhm.
assuming, the band. So what specific elements of music or performance did the artist/band
Mhm.
uniquely contribute to this world of music?
Well, I think on a whole, the Beatles kind of had a huge influence on music, and just as soon as they kind of stepped into the U.S., people loved them, all
Right.
ages.
So they're
Young
British.
girls would scream and just love them so much.
Wow.
Old people loved them because, they were nice boys, they were clean cut kind of, but not really. Actually, the older people hated them, that's the truth.
Yeah, I think that's
It was a little bit more rock and roll. They didn't
Right,
like it too
right.
much. But then as they developed as musicians, they became more, they weren't so poppy. Like when they first got here, they were very poppy.
Mhm.
But then I feel like once they got into Sgt. Pepper, they kind of got into their own swing of like what their style was.
Okay.
And so I have to see what the question was again. Oh, okay. So when they would perform for Sgt. Pepper, like a big thing with that, again, because they have the influence of India, they have these like really colorful outfits that they would wear on stage. But it was very much, they were trendsetters not only musically, but also in the fashion world as well. Very strange.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
remember
terrifying.
that.
Terrifying outfits, but everybody
you
liked
know,
it back then.
Yeah, of
Mhm.
course. So what I want to talk about next is
Mm.
who and what were the key influences of this band? Obviously, the Beatles are a
Right.
sensation. But what are
Yes.
some specific things that they influenced as far as music goes?
Right. So they were influenced by Elvis, who was right before them
Mm.
before they kind of took off. But again, going back to, they were very, they had taken a sabbatical and they'd gone to India and connected with these gurus.
Mhm.
So they definitely, the influence on this specific album was a lot to do with just a lot more spirituality.
Mhm.
It was really weird. But it's what they kind of were influenced by.
So
for
they're
this.
influenced by those gurus in India.
Yes.
Elvis Presley.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, could we talk a little bit about who they might have influenced? Because I'm sure a lot of people,
Yes.
maybe their music was influenced by the Beatles. Could you tell us a bit about
Absolutely. They probably influenced more than I can say.
Yes. There aren't words. There
No
really
words
aren't.
to express.
But we'll think of some.
Some major people that were affected. I know Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys was really affected by
Yes,
them.
Brian. What a
Brian.
good guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great guy.
And it was almost like a play back and forth. So like he would be really influenced by the Beatles, and the Beatles even said that they were really influenced by the Beach Boys. So it's kind of like a give and take relationship
It's
there.
really beautiful.
Jimi Hendrix actually covered some of the songs from Sgt. Pepper, and McCartney,
Wow,
Paul,
yeah.
and George Harrison were in the audience to listen to it. They approved really.
Fantastic.
Frank Zappa as well had some heavy influence
Who's that?
by the. I don't really know,
Okay.
but I actually know he's famous. I've heard of
It's fine.
him
Me
before.
too.
Yeah.
I think of
He was on the list. So, in summary, I personally love the Beatles, and I think they're basically awesome.
that's a quote.
Yeah.
I quote Bianca. The Beatles were basically
awesome. Yes,
And
they were
that
trendsetters.
only comes from years of research.
Years of not only research, but I actually knew them. I went to Beatlemania every year. I loved them.
You know the Beatles.
Yes. Well, I knew the cover band, the Beatles, that would play at Beatlemania every single year for the 5 years that I went. So I loved them.
Basically the same.
I talked to them. They had a fake British accent. I wasn't ashamed of it. One of them was from Stockton, California. Loved him.
Okay, great. That's
So-
great.
He was George Harrison.
That's great. Well, Bianca, I just want to say thank you for bringing to the table what you did. And
Yes.
Match Capper,
Match caps.
I hope you've enjoyed this.
Yes.
We sure had a blast.
Yeah, we sure did. Took a doozy to figure out how to upload this sucker, but we got it.
Well, we're going to sign off. As always, just competent. Remember that.
Please, C. Big C. No NYs before them. Just the
Just
C.
good old C.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Over and out.
Bye.